So my name is Paola Valencia. I work for the homeofblockchain.swiss and Alpine Tech Forum. And today I have the pleasure to have you, Jonathan, which you have a remarkable career across investment banking, fintech, blockchain, and currently you have a fabulous role at WISeKey. And to start, could you please introduce yourself, the WISeKey group, and what motivates you to work in this space?
Thank you for having me, first of all, Paola. Basically, I started my career in investment banking in London, doing trading stuff, which is very common here in Zurich, but then moved to fintech, and about 10 years ago moved exclusively to blockchain activities. And what motivated me was very much how we can introduce innovation into the digital infrastructure. And lately, it's been almost 2 years that I've joined WISeKey, which is a cybersecurity group, very interesting. And I need, actually, so that we roll out and explain what we do with the Silcoin and all the verticals of the group. It's a 25 years old company, Swiss company based out of Geneva, publicly listed in Switzerland and in the NASDAQ for some of our affiliates and daughter entities. And what's remarkable about this group is that it's a tiny group compared to the big microprocessor groups that we compete with, or compared to the big identity group that we compete with. But we have the opportunity to mix expertise and activities in a very unique way. So the verticals are CLSQ, which is one of our entities, publicly listed on the NASDAQ. We just crossed the 1 billion valuation this week, actually, or last week, because we push onto quantum and post-quantum algorithm inside the silicon, inside the microprocessor that we produce. And that's one aspect of what we're doing. Those microprocessors are used in our devices. So you take your phone, you take the headset, the microphone. They all have secure elements to protect the device. We use that as a vault to keep secrets whenever you have to share or to reveal those secrets. So that's one vertical. That's a very important one, and that's a hardware one. So usually also, again, you don't mix software with hardware that much into activities. The second vertical is the identities. We issue identities. We have our own root or certificate, what we commonly use PKI, public key infrastructure, which are a set of public and private keys that are used to issue identities with the specificity to be able to actually hide those identity inside the microprocessor. So we can inject the identity inside the object so that the object can actually authenticate itself whenever it has to. And we'll see how with AI later on, we have to now make sure that we want to authenticate those machines. Third one, very quickly, we launched satellites with WISeSat, and that's to actually secure the communication between devices, and also when those devices don't have access to internet. That's very convenient. And lastly, and this is more where I fit in this group, we have Silcoin, which is taking all of these components, plugging them on-chain. And why do we want all that to be on-chain? It's because most of the time, cybersecurity and physical objects, they work in a very siloed environment, in a very non-actionable or you cannot actually, you need to trust the entity that manages it. And we wanted to have all of that on-chain to bridge the gap between the physical security towards the digital infrastructure. And with that, you can actually, and this is what we do, you can make sure that the device can actually integrate and sign in its own data on-chain. And what we saw most of the time, and in all the blockchain, the issue is not the blockchain itself. The issue is where the data is coming from. That's a big issue. And now we can make sure that the data is actually signed by its own object. It's pushed toward this decentralized infrastructure. And with that, we can now enter into a digital infrastructure with a big trust layer. So that's in a nutshell, but then we can actually jump into more details.
No, this is very impressive, and which you mentioned trust, which made me think on why was the company settled in Switzerland, because the founder is not per se Swiss. You're also not Swiss.
No, but our founder is now Swiss.
Oh, well.
Used to work at the UN, and I think it's very interesting to see how Switzerland as a whole, not only as Swiss entities, can actually bring together a lot of attributes. Swiss is uniquely positioned in the world to be kind of neutral. So whenever it comes to trust, it's super convenient. There's a few downsides: the size of the country, access to money. Also, there's a lot of money, but is it towards innovation? It depends. Most of the time, it's towards other venues, and eventually being in the US is a bit more pragmatic towards investing into innovation. But here, in that case, we can actually mix innovation, access to public investment, and this overall trust into one big package. So the Swiss actually flag makes a lot of sense in that context.
Okay, very interesting. And I mean, as you mentioned, you've been in investment banking and in fintech and blockchain. Do you see like regulations being something that was easy in Switzerland, or?
I think Switzerland played it very well in issuing very clear regulation from the beginning. When I say from the beginning, it's not really from the beginning. We had to wait till February 2018, I think, to get FINMA to issue their guidelines on crypto. But they didn't move that much since then, and they are very clear. And what Switzerland managed to do very rightly was to make sure that they didn't try to create rules for this specific technology. They try to understand what the technology is about and how it fits in actual rules, and what's the impact for the end users of the technology. And that makes it very pragmatic rules, because they are not tied to any technology. They're tied to the consequences or the application of the technology. So Switzerland played it very well in that sense. This is why also we saw large and very big crypto and blockchain projects being created and hosted here in Switzerland physically, and that helped the whole ecosystem to be shaped from here.
Do you have some impactful examples that you have seen from blockchain and Web3 today beyond crypto that you have seen?
In terms of use cases, I mean, it all started with the banking crisis and how a niche cryptographic tool or infrastructure could be an alternative towards the financial ecosystem. And whatever started with financial use cases and applications, and what started also a lot with speculation, to be honest, and now is moving toward, again, trust, digital infrastructure. And as our world is becoming more and more digital anyway, it is a key attribute and key foundation that we need for the world as we know it, or the world that we're stepping into, that rely on all those digital infrastructure. We need to make sure that we have trust as an anchor layer, as a key foundation, making sure that we can keep on living in a safe environment. And beyond the safe environment, the purpose is to be in a better environment at the end of the day. But for it to be better, it has to be first safe.
Very, very good. It goes into your previous comments on like the relations and the trust. Very, very good. You also have been involved on education. Mm-hmm. And let's talk a little bit on Switzerland. Switzerland is known for cultivating top digital talent. And as you have been working also at the University of St. Gallen, can you explore like a little bit innovation and the education system?
So it is well known towards the world that Switzerland has great universities. So their reputation is already made. What makes those universities very special is how they embrace innovation whenever it arrives. And then the mix Switzerland has to offer around the universities. Because it's great to have universities, but you need to be able to mingle those great talents with great companies and an infrastructure. And this is what Switzerland managed to do quite well. So you take those top universities, you inject public investment, so access to money, and you make sure that you have a high quality life. Because it has also a role to play for the best talents of today and tomorrow. They want to live in a safe environment, in a good environment, and in a high quality life environment. So this is everything that Switzerland has to offer. But beyond that, as you mentioned, I was involved with the St. Gallen University at the MBA level to offer those blockchain course back in 2018. I think we started the first year in 2018, 2019, which was quite early because, to be honest, at that time, nothing existed for graduate and master MBA students. And I could see the differences between the Bocconi, where we gave also a few courses at Polytechnique in Paris, at IM Lyon in France. What MBA St. Gallen managed to do is not just a few courses to tick a box saying that, yeah, we are training students into blockchain technology. They actually created, and we created for them, a full elective 1 week full course back in 2018. We're one of the first one in the world to be able to provide, I hope quality, but content that could enable future leaders, because we're talking about the MBA of St. Gallen. So most of the time, those are like high-grade students, already most of the time executives of big companies, to understand how to implement innovation in general. Of course, it was specific towards blockchain, but innovation in general, that early, and to do it not as a one-off, but again, we did that for 5 years. So I think all of that contributes for Switzerland to be a very innovative hub.
Fantastic. Let's zoom out a little bit. We talk about digital innovation. I mean, it's global, and peace is now currently accelerating what's on the horizon. Which are the major trends you see shaping AI, cybersecurity, and decentralized tech in the next 5 years? It's a lot of time. But I mean, just in the horizon. And what are the hurdles of companies facing to adopt these technologies? Maybe we can talk a little bit about quantum as well.
So quantum is definitely a big trend that we're seeing. And not because it's just a trend, it's because it's a threat that is about to burst. And you know what? We can discuss if it's in 5 to 10 years or if it's in 30 years. The reality is that hackers can already hack most of the data that we have on those public and private infrastructures today and harvest them later once they have access to the quantum computer. So what we're working, and we're well positioned to do that because we're releasing our QS7001 microchips this month in the US with approved by NIST. So it has the highest credentials and certificates in the world, making sure that we can start protecting at the silicon level again those devices that represent the biggest threats. And we can do it from now on, today. And so that's definitely a big trend. And understanding what quantum will be able to break, which is about everything we know as of today, your bank, your identity, your access to anything online. It is time that we start implementing those new algorithms. So quantum is definitely one. I would say AI is already here. What's missing for me? Everyone is talking about automation and how AI can actually take decisions. It's great. We can use it every day. But if you want to trust an AI, not only to take a decision for you or to help you to take the decision, but also to be able to execute it, you want to make sure that the AI itself can authenticate that it belongs to you when it acts for you. So whatever the environment, I think providing AI agent with an identity is not an innovation, it's a hard requirement. If we want to have this end-to-end execution and automation that everyone is speaking about, it will only happen with identities and authentication. And once we have that, we can actually improve a lot most of our activities and our world. With that, I'm not scared about it. Everyone is, a lot of people are debating about how scary it is. It can be scary, but if you can authenticate who's doing what, I think it's all about taking ownership and responsibility about what you're doing online, on the digital infrastructure. And this is, again, where having these core cybersecurity activities build as a trust foundation.
Fantastic. Yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite topics to discuss. And yes.
Maybe another word, because you mentioned what are the threats. Complexity is a threat, and lacking of standards is a threat. So that means that we need to rebuild again everything. Not everything needs to be rebuilt, because we can actually leverage and recycle a lot of what exists on non-quantum algorithm. But we need to rethink also how this digital infrastructure is at the core layer of everything we do. And going a bit beyond the technology and the technicalities of our conversation, I think we have in front of us a huge democratic challenge to understand the difference between our physical world, where we live here in Switzerland in a very democratic environment, and the digital infrastructure, which is not that democratic anymore, because it applies and it replies, or it answers to different governance rules. And I'm not saying that it's good or bad. I'm just saying that we should be conscious about it and decide whether we want or not to be in this environment in that way. And if not, we have tools, and crypto and blockchain are some of these tools that are available to us if we want to do things differently. And I mean by that decentralization and again, having individuals back at the center of everything.
Oh, very interesting, very interesting. Now, taking a little bit behind your multicultural background and your Swiss leadership experience, how does Switzerland compares globally? I mean, you're a French citizen.
I'm French and Spanish citizen, indeed. I've been living in Switzerland for the past 9 years. I think this neutral approach is key to Switzerland. The size is both pros and cons, because it allows you to manage better communities and regions. We can see that we're a confederation with 4 official languages, with various cultural discrepancies, and yet everything works very well here in Switzerland. And I think it's a very good example to the outside world on how to work together in a decentralized way. But again, a lot of what we've been saying till now makes Switzerland quite unique. Maybe it's not the only one in the world, but one of the best positioned country in the world to provide and to lead this type of innovation, making sure that it's not to lead and keep everything for us, because most of the time, most of the Swiss innovation goes very fast, very rapidly abroad to scale for many reasons, most of the time economic reasons, but we can actually try and play here in Switzerland with a strong recognized regulation and regulator environment, and then export that to make sure that we can scale practices or solutions.
Fantastic. And do you have, as you have been an entrepreneur, Do you have some advice for international companies entering Switzerland in the digital landscape?
Yes, build everything around trust. Again, it's a big word, but I think as a company, trust is key, specifically here in Switzerland. And I think you should build your company around strong foundations. So the culture of the company is very important. The compliance and regulatory framework is very important. And you have not only you have clear set of rules and guidelines to operate your company, but also you have access to the regulators. And they are actually willing to understand what you're doing. Maybe not the technicalities again, because we need to understand them, but what's most important is how do you apply your solutions towards your client and towards the ecosystem you're deploying it to. But if you respect those rules with clarity and transparency, I think it's the best best of what Switzerland has to offer. And I would make a comparison to what Switzerland has lost in the past 20 to 30 years. It's banking secrecy. Why? And I think maybe this is what's on the back of blockchain exploding here in Switzerland. It has the best to offer toward transparency, which is part of the big secrecy issue. Yet everything remains private, which is a great combination for such a country based around this banking secrecy. So I think it found itself the right environment, the right technology for it to be able to grow looking forward.
Fantastic, Jonathan. Thank you for your insights. Your journey really highlights the intersection of trust, innovation, and talent. Any big plans for WISeKey so we can?
We're about to launch our own cryptocurrency. And again, it's not a cryptocurrency just to launch another cryptocurrency. This cryptocurrency comes together with a platform where you can register your devices, your AI agents, making sure that they have access to marketplaces. Why? It's because you want to make sure that you can access data or services in a very secure way. And Sealcoin is just making sure that we take all the components of WISeKey. So you take the microprocessors, you take the identity, you take eventually the satellite communications, and you make sure that they are all converging into one service platform where you choose the ecosystem and the services that you want to use. And this cryptocurrency, which is a utility and payment token as recognized by the FINMA, enables you to gain access to the platform and make sure that once you have access to the platform, you can start trading services. A very simple example, if you register your solar panel and I have an electric vehicle, I can actually go to the platform, making sure that I need electricity for my electric vehicle. And as you registered your solar panel, I can actually purchase it from you. So that's simple service exchange. It could be data exchange. Your solar panel can also generate data, temperatures data that you may want to sell to Meteo-Swiss. Instead of Meteo-Swiss having to deploy their own meteo stations that cost a lot to purchase, to maintain, so on and so forth. So here it's a data marketplace, which is secure and transparent. So that's a big activity. Hopefully we will be releasing that in the next 2 weeks.
Fantastic. Who will have thanks from Geneva to the world? Thank you so much, Jonathan.
Thank you, Paola, for having me.